All right. Well, that's what we have to establish. From the get go. So I'll say good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Haynes. I'm a planner too with Department of Planning and Zoning, and I assist with facilitating the design advisory panels, meetings, and processing the plans and documentation. For those of you who haven't been before the DAP, provides comments and discussion on submitted plans that are advisory to the Director of Planning and Zoning. We do have one plan on the agenda this evening, which is DAP Project 2402, which is Upton Road Senior Apartments. But before we do that, we do have one matter of business on the agenda. As a matter of procedure, we need to officially vote for the Design Advisory Panel's officers' positions. Now, we did receive a nomination from Mr. Ethan Merchant, who wanted to nominate himself for chair in his absence. But I figured I would ask the panel, is there anybody else here who would like to run for chair?
Since I've already done it, I would leave it open, Nick, to others to do. Is
there a second for Ethan then?
Sure. I'll second for Ethan.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Is there anybody who would like to nominate or for vice chair?
I nominate Larry.
Well, unfortunately I'm rotating off. I'm at the end of my second term, so I won't be here that much longer. I mean, I'm going to stay until they find a replacement, but otherwise I would have, accepted the nomination.
In that case, I retract and I nominate Kelly.
I'll take it.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right. The chair will be
Hey, Nick,
staffed by
speaking
Mr. Ethan
of that,
Merchant.
aren't am I in my
Vice
third?
chair will be seated by Miss Kelly.
Am I in my second or third?
Congratulations. Thank you, guys. We got the
Hey,
got
Nick.
that out of the way.
Nick,
Hey, Nick, can you let me know, am I in my second or third run here? And is my term coming up? I don't even know.
they want
I'll tell
you for
what,
12
Let me
years.
check the logs because I have you guys all scheduled. So I'll verify.
Yeah, let me know so that I don't find out the day before, because I have a few thoughts of people that I could nominate to, and I'll talk to them if on my term's coming up again, to
Please
replace
do.
me.
We are always accepting applications.
Okay.
Actually, that'd be a great help, Fred. Actually, have them apply. We set up a link on. There's a link on the website. I'll forward it to the panel members. If there's anybody you guys have in mind, or like to recommend, please have them apply. So, all are considered. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Let's move. I guess we can move to our project for this evening. Tonight we have, like I said, we have DAP Project 2402, which is Upton Road Senior Apartments. Mr. Vogel, who's the presenter for the evening, he's been here many times and I'm sure is well versed with the procedures. But let's start off with introductions. We'll give you guys about 15 minutes or so. Present the project. I'll give a quick brief synopsis from Planning and Zoning's staff report, and then we'll follow up with a discussion and questions from the panel. Does that work?
Works for me.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Hang on one second, Mr. Vogel. Let me.
Can we not call Mr. Vogel Mr. Vogel? How many times have you presented to this committee, Bob? Thousands.
It's like every other meeting.
Rob, you should have presenters, right?
Okay,
Should
great.
share your screen.
All right. Give me a second here. This up here. It'll take me a second because I'm not used to working without a monitor. By chance, is that showing up? Or is
No.
it? Okay. Didn't think so.
But is that background a photo, like a picture, or is that your actual window? Because it's beautiful.
I wish it was my actual window. Now that's one of those what do they call it, backdrops or.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But my actual window's not that different. My study looks out on a park.
There we
Nice.
go, Rob. We got you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
My name is Rob Vogel. Also presenting with me tonight is Chip Keener, Studio K Architecture. He is the architect for the project. A little bit, besides the slideshow that I have, that I'll step through the slides, and we'll try to keep it within the time constraints or as close as possible. I also have a 3D animation that I had someone prepare that I think gives a great perspective of of what you would see from Route 40 as you're looking up into the site, and for that matter, from Route 29, and then it gives an overview. So to me, it's just it turned out to be a really good tool, I think, to visualize the project. So I'm going to try to go through the slides a little bit maybe quicker than normal so that I have some 2 or 3 extra minutes or so to go through that 3D animation. So again, this is the Upton Road Senior Apartments. It is located, I would call the northwest quadrant of Route 29 and Route 40. I think everybody is familiar with that little neck of the woods. Next to the site is a small strip shopping center that fronts that has the Qdoba in it. It fronts Route 40. Its access is via driveway on St. John's Lane. Of course, there's St. John's Lane Plaza on the other side of St. John's Lane. I'll get a little bit more into detail of vicinity here. So this is the vacant site. It does have stormwater management features located on that site that will be relocated or redesigned and be integral to the new project. That stormwater actually serves the Qdoba strip shopping center called St. John's Crossing, and that stormwater will be integrated. Just for the record, so everybody realizes, this is believe it or not, this is the very top of the Tiber watershed. So we are required to provide stormwater management to the storm of record level. Pretty significant amount of stormwater management. To the west and at what would be the east northeast corner of St. John's Lane Route 40 is the Truist Bank. Running up St. John's Lane is the 2-story retail / office building with a pizza restaurant in it, the Mikasa Mexican restaurant, and some other uses. It's got a lower parking lot adjacent to St. John's Lane. It's got an upper parking lot to the rear. Chipotle at the north west quadrant of St. John's Lane and Route 40, and the St. John's Plaza with multiple users. To the north is Upton Road. Upton Road has these 3 existing residential structures that are shown on here, and an undeveloped piece that is currently under development. It's a residential subdivision of 9 lots on the north side of Upton Road, and I'll present that in a few minutes. And then the BG right of way, which is immediately adjacent to our east property line. And that BG right of way needs to be kept clear, obviously, of vegetation. It has high power or high tension power lines that run through there. This little building and pad you see there is a cell tower facility that is on that property. To the south on this view is Route 40. The Route 29 is to the east of the BG right of way, and the ramp going from southbound 29 to westbound 40 is right in front of this proposed site. Just some pictures from different perspectives. Picture one, which is in the upper left, looking front through the intersection of St. John's Lane and Route 40. Picture two is looking kind of from the back of that parking lot of the retail building that fronts St. John's Lane, looking to the east toward this property. Picture three is the tail end of the retail center that is just to our west, kind of looking off the end of that shopping center toward the subject property. Picture 4, 5, and 6 are all taken Route 40 and the ramp looking into the property. Picture 6 is actually looking into the BGE right away. 4 is looking into the site, and 5 is looking into the site. A few more vicinal pictures. Picture 1 is looking from the neighborhood to the north of the Upton Road properties, looking toward the subject property. Is pretty far away. Picture 2 is looking from St. John's Lane into that adjacent property to the north of on St. John's Lane. 3 is starting now to look down Upton Road. 4 is now, that is Upton Road today, and that's looking into the site. Picture 5 is getting now toward the terminus of Upton Road, and 6 is looking from southbound 29 toward the subject site. And the subject site is highlighted here with the green colors, kind of showing the existing vegetation that's on the site today. Another point to note is this site was already subjected to forest conservation, so there's no forest conservation required with this specific project. It was already accounted for, and that forest was actually provided off-site. The reason being was it was the stormwater management, as I mentioned earlier, for the adjacent retail, so that brought it into having to deal with forest conservation some years ago. This slide is highlights the certain buildings. You'll see them show up highlighted, and then the corresponding colors key into the pictures above and to the right. So the gold is the Chipotle, the green is the Truist Bank, and the purple is the retail, adjacent retail strip. This is the St. John's Plaza in purple. Those are the purple pictures. The building that fronts St. John's Lane is on this slide shown in green. Picture from the front, picture from the rear. And then the two gold outlines are the existing residences on Upton. Kind of finishing this up, we've got the gas station in green, the gas station in blue, which is under reconstruction right now, and then the purple is the those retail buildings, older retail buildings, are on the opposite side of Route 40. That really takes again back to the vicinity picture. This now puts on two things. On Upton Road, you'll see Upton Road being improved as part of the Maple Grove subdivision, and that is showing the 9 lots, 9 houses on there that are forthcoming. They're pretty far along in the development process, but you'll see the sidewalks are now shown on Upton Road and widening of Upton Road up to the subject property. And you're also seeing then the proposed development being overlaid, which consists of the parking lot for this age-restricted apartment building and the apartment building itself. And we'll get into a little bit better views of this. You'll in the open part of the building, outside is the outdoor amenity area, and you'll see some images of landscaping and noise wall and such. So just again, more of an overview. These are sections. Obviously, looking, section AA is a east to west section, looking through, in this case, through the existing shopping center building and through the proposed building. That you're seeing the ends of the building and then alongside the building behind it. Site section A is further east. Site section A is further west. So section east, you're seeing Route 29. You're seeing the DGE open right away, and then you're seeing the beginning of our building with the fire lane next to it. And then section B is the kind of the north-south section. So you're getting a perpendicular view to that. So you're seeing Route 40, trees, some of the trees down closer to Route 40, fire lane that has to run behind the building, through the outdoor amenity space, up through the building, the front parking lot on the other side of the building, the side away from Route 40. And it runs out to a dog park, and we'll show that in a little bit more detail in that direction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chip. Chip, if you could talk through the building and the design and the materials, that would be great.
Sure. So this one is an age-restricted affordable housing development. It's going to be funded through HUD, or proposed funding is through HUD and low-income housing tax credits. So the building itself, the target density is 135 units, all 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, which is pretty typical for senior buildings. And to accommodate the existing grade, what we did was 4 stories on the front, and on the back side, that courtyard side that Rob was illustrating, that's 5 stories back there, and that because the grade drops pretty dramatically across this site. The finishes on the exterior of the building, we're proposing, pretty typical clay masonry, vinyl lap siding, fiber cement accent panels, architectural grade asphalt shingle roofing, standing seam metal roof accents, just to add some visual appeal to the building. And as much as we could, we just followed the grade and the contour, and we tried to place the building where it would connect well to the entry point and to the shopping center. You can see the drive that goes past the building right down to those existing shopping centers. We wanted to make it a walkable community for those residents. And we have a lot of amenity space on the outside that Rob already showed. And on the inside of the building, what we'll be doing is trying to give them, 5,000 or 6,000 square feet of fitness room, community gathering space, tech room, like a maker room, telework room, all those kind of spaces that will keep them active as a population. The building itself, it's going to have to be, just to meet threshold requirements for low-income housing tax credit, it'll have to be Energy Star certified. There's all kinds of energy requirements for HVAC and everything that we'll have to meet just through those programs. I guess that's probably about it for the summary of the building.
Yeah, thanks, Chip. And we may come back. I just now I'm going to back up a couple of slides. So this is the building, the parking lot. By suggestions and some discussions already with planning and zoning, we talked a lot about pedestrian connectivity and walkable areas. So we are going to, in my discussions with fire, we have to have a connection, and we should, through the St. John's Crossing Retail Center up through the side of this project and into the front parking lot. We're all familiar with this Route 40 St. John's Lane intersection. We want to make sure there is an extra means of ingress and egress to not only this building. If something should happen at 40 and St. John's Lane, that same ingress and egress, if there's folks that are trapped, let's say, in the parking lot of the retail or the Truist, they can actually use this fire road and get out, and vice versa. It's just a really good connection. And I was, we worked hard with fire and rescue to make that happen. Embedded in that fire lane will be a pathway. So I envision I'm not exactly sure the material of the fire lane, I'm envisioning like a reinforced base with the kind of the plastic cells that get embedded on the surface that can support grass, but have the base underneath to be able to support a fire vehicle. But then embedded in that would be an actual pathway, so we can have connectivity to the retail center and the bank from the front of this from the front and rear of the proposed building. And then you'll see at the rear is also a fire lane, but also embedded in that fire lane will be a pathway tying into the patio outdoor amenity area. Travel through that amenity area on the other side is the same thing, a pathway coming from that amenity area, coming out onto that fire lane and making its way back to the front of the building. There will be a pathway in this island that runs north and south to get folks safely up to the sidewalk on the north, and then tie into Upton Road so that folks can get up to Upton Road. And then there's sidewalk shown that's not there today along St. John's Lane and down to the pedestrian signal at St. John's Lane and Route 40. So a lot of thought has been given to pedestrian connectivity at this location, and we really have tried to step it up in that regards. There's also be able to through the same sidewalk that goes north to south, jump over to a dog park for these folks up in this kind of this bump out area here to the north. So we envision that to be a dog park with the typical benches, the doggy stations there as well. Tried to, and this dumpster was very difficult for this job, so it's dumpster is kind of located away and to the north up there, not the most convenient, but that's what we're going to have to do. We cannot have a dumpster truck share the fire lane. That's not permitted. So we didn't want it right next to the front of the building. It's not a good look and just not good. So we moved it up there to the northeast there. The outdoor amenity area is conceptual at this point. We don't have a user, a specific user. Although we're working for the developer, there's not a user yet identified. So I've looked at some of our other projects, and we try to replicate that a little bit with some different circles and seating areas, one having a water feature, one being more just a patio, the other being planted. I'm sure we'll have other amenities in here at the end of the day, but it will be heavily landscaped and screened for noise from Route 40. I'm gonna pop over to this kind of some of our typical cuts here. The picnic table, benches, outdoor seating, bike rack. In the front of the building, we do have EV charging stations located in front center of the building in the parking lot. Again, you're seeing on here some of the sidewalk connections, the dog park. This is a noise fence that we had on another one of our projects that's across the street from that was recently installed across from Longgate Shopping Center, from the Target Shopping Center. And I do like this noise wall. It's a little different than the county standard noise wall. There's a little bit more character to it, and obviously it'd be landscaped on both sides of that wall. Just typical some of the landscaping that we think would be utilized on the site. Just a typical retaining wall, geogrid with geogrid tieback image there. With that, I'm just going to real quick, I'm going to try now to see if I can put up this. I really like this this 3D animation. So if you just bear with me for 1 second. Try to get this up and running. Escape. Okay. Share screen again. Are you seeing an image?
Yes.
Wonderful. I'm going to narrate this and I'm going to try to keep it quick. So this is what you'd see if you're coming down Route 29. Off to the right, you're seeing the ramp going to Route 40 west. We're now still on 29. We're going on top of Route 40. Now we're going to drop down on the Route 40 westbound. We're looking, you can see the building, the proposed building in the background there on the right. Now the ramp from 29 south to 40 west, we're running into that. We're looking right at the building as you'd see it. Now we jump to we're actually now on the eastbound side of Route 40, looking back at the building. That is the retail building. It's not, obviously we just put it in there as a block. That is the existing retail building next to us. We're kind of looking at the fire lane as it would come around the left side of the building with the pathway embedded in it. That's the fire lane on the left side. Fire lane behind the building, also with a pathway. There's our noise fence. A little bit of, you're kind of seeing ghosted in the landscaping, the amenity area, the rear of the building. We're moving back in the easterly direction. Again, more fire lane with the walkway in it. We're now looking at it from the east, looking west at that side of it, kind of from the perspective of if you were in the BGE right away. That's what you would see from that side. And now we're wrapping around to the north side of the building, the front parking lot and the north face of the building with landscaping. This landscaping actually is kind of consistent with our site plan. There's the EV charging stations, the front door, and now we're looking at the west side. Again, that's the fire lane as it comes up to the front of the building, the retaining wall that supports that fire lane or creates that fire lane. And then again, the landscaping, he's going to pull up here and show you the view from up, kind of more of a bird's eye view here. There's the retail building, kind of giving you a perspective of those buildings and the proposed building. Upton Road is right there in your screen. These buildings on the left, that's the proposed Maple Grove subdivision. Those buildings, those houses don't exist yet. There's the BG right away. So now we're up high over the BG right away, coming down the ramp again, kind of wrapping around and giving you an aerial view from the Route 40 side. Yeah, those houses up there are not built, but they are the houses that are being proposed. Making me dizzy right now. So, yep. That's, again, there's the BG right away and back to kind of where this tour started. So I like it because it really, to me, gives a really good perspective of what's being proposed. With that, I am done.
Fred, you're on mute.
Okay. Can you go to the site plan, please?
Well, so Nick needs to do his staff report first
Oh,
before
I'm
we start
sorry.
asking
Okay.
questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I'll keep this fairly brief. I think the applicants did a great job explaining exactly what they have. You know, the 3D 3D mapping, man, that's great. I mean, I think that really explains what you guys have going on. I mean, it really helps, honestly, spatially show exactly, what you guys have, on the site, and what you guys have proposed, especially with connections and stuff like that. The site, a little over 5.5 acres, 5.67 acres, zone POR. Age-restricted adult housing is a permitted use, so they won't be going through the conditional use. This does fall directly within the DAPS review area, as it does have direct frontage on Route 40. As they explained, it's going to be accessed from Upton Road and back, which will gain access, outwardly from St. John's Lane. DPZ, we'd like the panel to really evaluate, make recommendations on the orientation, layout, and configuration of the site plan. We initially had expressed some concerns regarding enhanced connections to the neighboring properties for both pedestrians and and vehicular connections. And I think Mr. Vogel, he's done a fairly good job of sort of elaborating on what those connections are. But if the panel could, I mean, really sort of dig into that. Does they feel that it works? Is there anything they might want to consider moving forward with the design? Any recommendations on edge treatments and transitions along the perimeter? I know there are grading changes on site, given the existing topography, and really the how close the neighboring both residences and as well as the commercial elements are. So any recommendations on screening enhancements, perhaps. This does also sit along 40. Mr. Vogel provided an example of what the new noise wall is going to be. So any recommendations on towards that effect would also be helpful. It is a 4-story building, fairly standard architecture. We know, we've seen from the presentation sort of what the surrounding elements, look like and what those communal elements are. So any recommendations on the architecture scale, articulation would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Nick. So Shahir, if you would like to start comments, I know you were really getting ready to start.
Well, I think Madam Chair should go first with your questions.
All right. Well, thank you. So Bob, can you share the presentation again real quick?
Yeah, let me get that back up. Okay. Give me just 1 second if you could.
And I think if we can focus on the site plan, that would be the kind of first spot I'd start.
One second. All right, you're seeing that?
Yes.
So you want me to go to the site plan, right?
Yes, please. I appreciate all the background of some of the images and how it ties into the other properties. Just a couple of questions of the connection over to the adjacent retail property. It is going to be fire lane and you're trying to make it mostly a pedestrian access in its day-to-day. Is there any way to try and keep other vehicles from driving on that fire lane? Any gates or any perimeter kind of control?
Great question. Yes, fire will make us gate it so that only they will have the ability to open that gate. So it'll be gated, but yet we'll design the gate such that pedestrians can pass. Or if it's not truly a gate, it can also be the locking bollards where fire is able to unlock the bollards and slide them out. So one of those options we will be implementing. Fire will not allow us to leave that open for vehicular traffic.
Okay, good to hear. And then one of the photos I did see, there was like a ramp on the adjacent property that looks like it's right about where the drive lane is. That's back on one of your earlier slides. That ramp's getting taken into account as you're tying into that pedestrian side and.
Yeah, so that's another property owner. We've actually been coordinating with them. There's actually there, if you're familiar with that side, there's also a transformer that we're having to work around, and we are going to end up relocating that ramp, those steps from the end there where it's the pottery shop. We're going to integrate that into the fire lane and the pathway, but it will take a little bit of reconstruction there to make that happen.
And then it sounds like on the, kind of zooming in at that lower part of the site, you're connecting the end of those, the Cs, I'll call them, of the building. You're connecting the one side directly over to there. Is there a connection from the east wing that connects back over towards that retail center, or are pedestrians forced to get back into the amenity space and then swing back out through the pathway?
So a connection between the two ends is that?
Mhm.
Yeah, so right now I don't just schematically didn't have that in there. That's certainly something we can integrate so that folks don't have to walk basically around the U. They could go straight across from end to end. That's certainly very doable. I just have not designed that in. I think I was trying to retain that area adjacent to the inside of the noise fence, if you will, for a lot of landscaping. But we can
Yeah.
integrate a pathway there.
Yeah, if the pathway is inside the sound fence, outside of the sound fence, I don't think it necessarily matters. But if there's no kind of direct pathway and they're forced to come all the way back around, they're going to make their own footpath pretty
Mhm.
quickly.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I think that's something to definitely consider there.
I think most people like to have a loop at some point. So Kelly, that would be good if they could connect those, because then you could have that loop around the building where you still feel safe, but you're, getting some exercise and not having to backtrack.
Yeah, or forced closer to the building, you can stay closer on that nature side of your walk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, understood the amenity area is still being kind of programmed. It being a senior housing kind of setup, things for group activities is probably something you should be considering in there. Playground's obviously not appropriate for this, but somewhere where groups can come outside, maybe a shade pavilion, because some of that population can't be out in the sun as long. Things to consider there that becomes part of your amenity space. Just thinking of like when I've gone to visit relatives and what's been in their areas there that have let them have those community events that lets everyone be outside. My other big concern, and I'm sure it's because what's required for the size and population, is that is a big parking area. It's a big sea of asphalt with kind of the one pathway that connects you back up towards Upton Road. Is there any way that can get a little more greenery or something that is a little less sea of asphalt?
Yeah, we're probably, yeah, I thought the same thing. I look at that and I go, why so many? But it's the county regulations 1.3 per apartment. So there are a few extra spaces. I think I was thinking there's maybe 4 or 5 extra spaces. So yeah, there's some things we can do here definitely to at least, I would say in the east-west direction, have a set of islands running breaking up the parking lots going north and south with an island midway, let's say. So yeah, we could definitely break it up.
And is your stormwater going to be handled on site? How's that might integrate into how you're handling that kind of island configuration out there?
Yes, stormwater on this, being I'm the engineering dork I am, the under the front parking lot will be one buried system, and it discharges. It'll discharge to the east, where ultimately it goes to a culvert under Route 29. The other facility is actually under the amenity area in the rear, and that's another buried system. So we're actually going to bring the drainage in from the St. John Crossing project, and the back half of our roof and the amenity area will get treated in a buried system under the outdoor amenity area, and it'll discharge to the exact same location it discharges today, which is down to a swale adjacent to Route 40, and that swale again runs around to the east and then discharges under Route 29.
Yeah, I live right off Main Street, Ellicott City, so I worry about stormwater a little bit, especially anything in that Tiber watershed. So-
Yeah, so yeah, it's 1,000. Basically, you know, simplifying, it's basically 1,000-year stormwater management. So there's all these projects in the watershed. We try to make it just really beneficial for Ellicott City. So right now, the stormwater that's there for the retail is not to that higher level, the new criteria. So we are actually redesigning the stormwater for the retail center to be that higher level of stormwater management too. So net effect after construction is more of a benefit, if you will, to the community of the Ellicott City Tiber watershed than it is today.
Right. And then just kind of two other little comments on the site plan is kind of the distance of the dumpster and the dog park. I agree that having a dumpster towards the front of your building's not ideal, but with it being seniors, is trash collection kind of to a central location in the building and then building maintenance takes it out, or is it the residents are in charge of moving their own refuse?
No, it's not. Chip, could you speak a little bit to how you saw the trash working?
Yeah, so this would have a trash chute running vertically through the building. So each floor would have a trash room. They deposit in the chute, goes down to a compactor. Compactor smashes it into a 4 or an 8 yard dumpster, and then maintenance facilities would be the people who would remove that from the building. We're not expecting the residents to be walking up the other end of the parking lot with their trash.
That makes me feel a bit better about that dumpster location. Because just thinking of someone who might not have all their mobility, that would be a little bit of a hike. I kind of feel the same way a little bit about the dog park. If someone wants to let their dog run around out there, that might be a little far to hike to just let the dog run around. I'm assuming the dog park's for the residents, and they're going to have their own pets. So I have 3 dogs, so letting them out in the middle of the night, it seems like that would be a hike if that was for that purpose.
Yeah,
So
the dog. I mean, if someone has smaller dogs or they're just not able to walk very far, they could probably use the pathways on the sides. Yes, folks would have to walk a little bit further to get to that dog park.
it might be worthwhile to consider if a smaller version of that could be in your amenity area or something kind of off to the east, right off the corner of the building, some smaller version of a dog park, just to kind of assist in that mobility. That's kind of what I saw with the site plan. I did have the 3D definitely helped kind of visualize how this was going to be so close up on 40 to me. I was a little concerned about that at first, but I think once you start to see the terracing, I'm not as opposed to it as I was originally reviewing this. Architecturally, it is a little difficult without the kind of the amenity floor plan. I know it's early in the project to kind of understand how that relates to the lower level and what you're sinking, and but the facade, the materials all make sense to me. It looks like when you get to the south side, the language starts to change about instead of accentuating the corners, you start accentuating the middle panel. I think you want to keep a consistent language of accentuating those corners. If you go to the elevation, which one is this one here? The south elevation, you can start to see how the south versus the east, it starts to change a bit. And that may be intentional, but with the south being the frontage off of 40 and kind of the design guidelines pushing for accentuating the corners, I think that's a facade you kind of need to focus on there. Of how do those corners at the ends of the C can meet that language of accentuating the corners materiality wise as well as the massing wise.
Understood. We can embellish those for sure. Yeah.
So, and then there's a little bit of extra kind of, it looks like water table work in some of the red ones that might be a little heavy. But it's early in design. It's kind of a minor detail. So that's the comments that I had. So if we want to go back to, I guess, Shahir, if you would like to take over the next round of comments there, or
Thanks, Kelly. Actually, you asked many of my questions, so I don't have to go over them, but I think I agree with many of the things that you said. For example, walking to the dog park, as you said, I think, I don't know if there is a possibility that we have a walkway through that green area to the east. So you have actually another access point to the dog park to the east. So I don't know if that's if there is any obstacle or any problem with having another walkway there. I mean, to me, the more walkways you have for such a big building, the better for residents. I mean, if somebody lives on the west part of the building and wants to go to the dog park, you know, maybe if there is another walkway there, it would help instead of just going through the parking lot. That's one thing. Another thing is that I agree. I think this parking lot is just way too much asphalt without any landscaping. I know that you have to meet the minimum requirements for the parking, which sometimes I don't agree with the requirements that the county and other jurisdictions have for parking. Usually, most of the parking spaces are empty most of the day. I don't know why we keep building so many parking and not really using it. But anyway, I think you have to take a look at more landscaping within the parking area. You said the stormwater to the front on the south side is underneath, and then it will be drained under Route 29 and going to that newly built stormwater to the east of 29.
Yeah, that's where a lot of this water ends up in that big new stormwater facility, but
Okay.
we're actually going to be reducing gross numbers. We're reducing runoff from this area below what it is today. So it actually provides
Okay.
results in more capacity being available in that that newly constructed facility.
Okay. All right. Okay. Another question that I have here is, you mentioned one of the reasons that you have this access for fire access to the front through St. John's Crossing parking area is because if something happens at the intersection of St. John's Lane and Route 40, then you want to have another access, fire access, which I agree 100%. But looking at the access to the St. John's Crossing there, that access is just for exiting. So for fire trucks to make that sharp turn, I'm not sure if that area can actually provides enough space for the fire truck to be able to make the turn. I think that's something that you have to have a template there and make sure that they can make that right turn into the St. John's Crossing in front.
Yeah,
Is
Fire did already. Fire looked at this already. This is what exactly what they want. Yeah.
so it works. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, the retaining wall between the shopping plaza and your site seems like there is a very difference in elevation. So that access through there for fire lane, what is the slope there? I'm just curious. What is the?
So that slope of the fire lane is probably a 10% slope. So that walkway will be steeper than ideal. So if folks in
Yes.
the facility want to go to the retail center, they'll probably come down to the lower level and then use the other sidewalk because at that point it would be fairly flat. So folks
Okay.
that are impaired for walking are probably not going to walk from the front parking lot down that part of the fire lane. Although if they're physically capable, they can. But if they're
Okay.
if they're impaired, they're going to probably exit at the amenity level and then walk over that way.
Okay. And for fire truck slope 10%, is that acceptable to
Yeah.
to go downhill that way?
Yeah, so
Okay.
there was a lot of thought and a lot of coordination with fire. Not only do we have to check to make sure slope and turns and turning radii were met, they also want
Okay.
to make sure that I can't remember the stabilizers that come out the side of the fire truck. We had to be wide enough that those stabilizers can come out and contact the ground. So yeah, there's a lot of preliminary planning, probably more with fire department than anybody else.
Okay. Rob, I just thought about something, just a recommendation. I don't know how it's gonna work, but if you can see that part of the parking spaces goes into the dog park. So if we move the dog park to the north and accommodate a little bit more parking there, then maybe that free some space for landscaping for the parking lot.
Oh,
Again, I don't know how much I can emphasize the point that this asphalt, it doesn't look good to me. So
no,
so if you can
Point well
move
taken.
everything to the north, maybe you can free some space for landscaping.
Yes. Yeah, I think we have a couple extra spaces as it is, but yeah, if we need to move a few out there and to create a good break in that aisle in the parking lot, I got you guys loud and clear on that one. We'll definitely be doing something with that.
All right. I think that's enough for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Share. Fred, you want to go next?
Sure. Let's see. Yep, I'm off of mute. So Bob, I think overall presentation looks really good. I particularly echo Kelly's thoughts. I appreciate you guys doing a lot of the context, identifying the existing conditions, the existing buildings. You missed one though. You don't have Qdoba in there.
I know.
All of them
I don't
except
know what
Qdoba.
jumbo chicken is either. So how do you overlook Qdoba for jumbo chicken? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but anyway, it's great, and particularly the different views and existing structures. That's great. So thanks for doing that. And I'm not going to reiterate everything, but definitely look at the parking lot, adding some islands, the dog park. Maybe you could split it into two separate dog parks, and it's that little piece of land off to the east there that buffers against the BG&E row, and then you also have a further little dog park that for those that are able can go further. Because I agree with Kelly, a lot of these folks are probably going to have pets, right? So you kind of got to address somehow maybe having a smaller little parky area for them closer to the building. Let's see here. Living in this neighborhood not far from here, and I know there's nothing you can do, but particularly since you really are doing a good job of trying to make this so pedestrian friendly and walkable and all that, and there are a lot of things nearby that folks could walk to. The Sprouts would be one of them. Unfortunately, they got to cross a thoroughfare that is, you take your life in your hands. And I wish there was a way you could do a crosswalk there at the corner, because every time I'm down there, people are taking their life in their hands trying to make that cross walk over there. And I know that's beyond the purview of you guys, but just wanted to throw that out there because I know Nick's listening. And the trash, I agree with Kelly. You know, and the question, my initial concern was it so far, but I'm glad to hear how it's being addressed so that residents are not going to be expected to walk it all the way out there. Let's see here. Sound walls. I'm not sure I'm a big proponent of these sound walls. I mean, they in theory sound great, but if you talk to an acoustician, you know, sound goes out, but primarily upward, right? You're building a, I don't know, a 10-foot high sound wall, which looks, you know, like what it is. But I don't know that it really addresses the sound and the way people think it does. I think some of the ones that might be, you know, 20 feet tall, maybe that's a little bit better, but your building is so tall. I question whether an 8 or 10 or 12-foot high sound wall is really going to do much.
Yeah, Fred, real quick. Yeah, the noise wall is not intended to shield any noise from the building, especially upper levels of building. The intent of the noise wall is only to cover someone out enjoying the amenity area, to cover their height of ear. And so it's just, and it should be effective. Because noise walls are pretty relevant to actually line of sight. So if you're on Route 40 and you're looking toward the building, that noise fence even at 6 or 8, let's call it 8 feet tall, will intercept that noise to a person in that ground level amenity area. But it's not going to do anything to abate the noise in the building, and it's not intended to do that.
How does it work? You know, because I'm looking at the, I forget, it was the section elevation you had, you know, since the wall's not continuous, it stops short so that people can circulate or walk through the courtyard. So the wall is, I don't know, 10 feet, 15 feet short of the building. How does that really function then? Is it going to really abate the sound, or isn't the sound still going to go around the ends of the wall?
No, there'll be noise that goes around the end of the wall. Or the other thing you can do is turn the end of the walls in directions to try to help intercept it. So if you don't end the wall straight, and let's say it goes another 5 feet or 6 feet at a 45-degree angle, it's going to even do more to intercept it. But yeah, unfortunately, we do need a pathway through.
Yeah, I'm not that versed on, I'm not an acoustician, but I know there are probably better ways to handle that. You might want to look at that, because I know in your section elevation, it kind of stops short of the building, and I question, is it really doing much? So anyway, take a look at that and see what you come up with.
Or how does that sound wall maybe become a feature, you know, as part of an amenity
maybe
space?
it's right. Maybe it's the wall, and then there's another wall beyond it, you know, and you circulate around. I don't know. Somebody said something about, and I agree, you know, I appreciate the fact that you're really trying to make the fire lane be more pedestrian friendly and be a pedestrian lane, because 99% of the time that's what it will be, not fire lane. But I would encourage you, and I know it sounds like the fire department is open to it, try not to do a gate. In fact, if they're willing to do the bollards, they're less obtrusive and less, you know, the gate, you have a perception when you see a gate, like you can't walk even, right? So at least with the bollards, you feel like it's a pathway for people to walk and you can circulate around it. And the fire department is going to accept that, then they can just remove them when they need to go down there for whatever reason. So that would be a suggestion there, to try not to do the gate. Oh, my last question is regarding the architecture. I think it's fine. I think my only question would be, and Kelly kind of talked about this, is be careful of, I'm a little concerned with how sort of in some of the elevations, the brick, what appears to be brick, or actually you called clay, and I'm assuming the red material is actually a brick. that correct?
Yes, a clay masonry. It's a brick.
Yeah, so it's a mason, it's a brick. And then the tan material, you sort of created a base middle top to the building, right? So the
Right.
base being that red color is brick. What's the middle material, that tan color? Is that another masonry?
Vinyl lap siding.
Okay, and then what's the material on the top?
Vinyl lap siding.
So just two different colors.
Right.
So back to what Kelly had said, and I'm not going to sit here and yeah. So so for instance, the east elevation, I'm bothered by how the brick, and I know what you did. I see what you did on the far right of that elevation, where the brick turns the corner, and then it just sort of has this odd stopping point. I'm not sure that I agree with. So, and I know you guys can go back and you can rationalize probably why you did what you did, but I'm just curious and thinking maybe there's another solution there. And maybe there's, anyway, I'm not going to sit here without sketching on it myself. That you need to take another look at it. It feels strange to me on some of those elevations, the way the materials seem to start and stop, and at which point they start and stop. And I actually thought that middle material might be more successful if it was just a lighter color brick rather than another siding material. But anyway, I digress. You guys can look at that.
The elevations, I don't know too, if it sounds like there's a 10% grade change across the face of that elevation, and you
Yeah.
can't read that from these elevations.
You can see it on the west elevation, Kelly, if you look at the far
Yeah.
lower right. Yeah, so you're right though, but it's hard to see it on the south and the others.
Yeah, one of the things that Rob tried to do was at the very base of the building, he was trying to flatten everything out. So as you go away from the building, it drops down and the grade changes more dramatically. But he was specifically trying to engineer that site so that there wasn't huge sections of foundation wall, an extra 8 feet of foundation exposed.
Right.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I can appreciate it, what you guys are doing. I think overall, again, like I said, at this early design phase, I think you guys are in pretty good shape personally. I mean, you got a couple of details we've talked about. So thank you. It looks relatively good. And I think, frankly, I must drive by that site every day, actually. And I didn't realize there was a site there. And I think so it'll be an improvement to the context of the area. Nice job.
Thank you.
Fred, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah.
All right, Larry?
Yeah, Rob, could you go back to the site plan? Okay, I just wanted to expand a bit. I'm looking at this on my phone, so it's a little bit small, but I do remember it from looking at it on my laptop. Just wanted to expand on some of the comments that the others have made regarding the site plan. First of all, the sound wall, I know which one you're talking about over there off of 103, and it is nicely done. And I've seen where you can, just like along the Beltway and that, there are vines and things that you can plant. I wouldn't propose, what you're seeing in those types of interstate situations, but there are things that maybe it's a stainless steel wired, trellis or something that is on one side, and you can train plants to go up it. So it looks like it's part of the garden. I think it will be effective. I've been outside, including myself. I'm older now, so if I have background noise, sometimes I can't hear conversations as well. So I think that someone sitting in the pavilion or whatever in the amenities area might appreciate some type of sound barrier there, just because that background noise can be very disruptive when you're, I don't know, maybe you're playing a card game or just having a conversation. So I think it will be appreciated. I don't know about Fred's comment as to whether that would still let too much sound in, on the ends. But I know when I'm walking around along the sound barrier. This is not a really good comparison, but on the new Wilson Bridge, there are areas when you walk on that bridge across from Maryland to Virginia. There was a cemetery there, and they were concerned about the noise, and they put up a glass sound barrier, and it's amazing, even with everything buzzing around you, the cars going high speed. When you're along that, it really is dramatic in terms of the effect it has on cutting the sound down. So I think that's probably a good idea for that area. With regard to the parking lot, I think if you are going to lose some spaces, that walkway, I love the walkway connecting the building to Upton, but if you punched out maybe like 4 more spaces there and made that a little bit more tree lined, I think it would be more pleasant, and it would look like a pedestrian walkway through the parking lot rather than just a concrete ribbon, going through the hot pavement area. And I do agree, if you can break it up more with some more islands or whatever, that would be a good idea. As pedestrians that are going to like Sprouts and that, I don't see them using like cutting through the Padoba parking lot and then trying to cross there. I think the further you cross from distance from the St. John's Route 40 intersection, the better. But I was wondering, Nick, whether the county might consider, if it is a crosswalk, one of those sort of flashing lights, pedestrian crossing or whatever. You're not stopping cars, but you're at least telling people that there are pedestrians that could be crossing right there. So that might be a good safety measure along St. John's Lane, right where Upton joins it. Regarding the dog park, I think the distance doesn't bother me. I mean, even if you're taking your dog to a park that has a dog park, you're usually parking and then, walking probably way more distance than that to the dog park. I don't look at that as being an area where you're taking your pet out in the middle of the night to relieve themselves. I think it needs to be a minimum enclosure, a certain space requirement, because if you're going to have small dogs and big dogs, that it could be, quite a, just a complete confusion going on, and just dangerous if you don't have enough space. So I think that probably is the proper place for the dog park. I would ask you, Rob, that is it a definite that pets are going to be allowed in this building? Because I know many apartments don't allow pets. So if that's the case here, then there's no use to have a dog park. So just something to consider as you move on with this. The other thing is, I think it was Shahir that had indicated that could there be a walkway along that eastern boundary of the parking lot, along that woods there. I think that would be ideal, because if you do want to take your dog to the dog park, I don't think you want to be crossing like in July and August when the pavement's hot through the parking lot or even on that walkway. It'd be nice to have a sort of a tree lined walkway that would lead up to the dog park. And those that just want to take their dogs out just to relieve themselves, it could be like little areas there with the the dog pickup stations, with the bags and stuff. So you're not really going that far from the apartments. And if that's all you want to do, you can use that walkway. If your destination is really the dog park, then you just continue on to the dog park. Let's see, I think that was it regarding all the outdoor comments that I had. The only other thing is, and I'll leave this up to Kelly and Fred, but I had noticed when I drive by there that there's the use of stone on the facades of the buildings, whether it's the Qdoba Shopping Center. I think I remember from across the street that the new Shell station that's going in, that's being rebuilt, has some stone on it. And I was wondering whether stone might, like the stacked stone facade, even if it's just the veneer, might be a better choice rather than the red brick. I think you could still have that kind of craftsman look, and maybe that just small gesture, if it's not that much more expensive or maybe the same price, would kind of tie this building into what's happening around it without trying to, mimic exactly, the architecture. So I just throw that out as an idea. That's the one thing I had noticed when I looked at the building, that the brick was just, maybe it's just the way it's rendered, is just so red, and I just don't recall anything on that immediate corridor that fits into that type of masonry surface. And with that, I think that's all I had. Let me see. Yes, I didn't have any other comments. So, but thank you. I think generally you've done a good job in placing the building. I think this needs to be tweaked a bit, and I think it could work out well and fit in with this neighborhood really nicely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. I guess any last call from the rest of the members, if there's any other last comments?
Yes, actually, I really didn't want to take too much time. First of all, when it was my turn, and also because I'm not an architect, I usually hesitate to make comments about the architectural feature of the building, but Larry gave me the reason to make that comment, which is I'm not sure the combination of brown and yellow is such a great combination for a building. I think stone, maybe lighter color buildings would, at least in my taste, would look better than brick and yellow mix of brown and yellow building. So I think if you consider that, that would be good.
Thank you.
All right. With that, panel members, do we want to make any motions?
To make a motion, Kelly, this is Larry. I'd like to make a motion that the client consider breaking up the parking lot with more landscaping, more trees, including lining the walkway, the pedestrian connection with more trees to make it more pedestrian friendly. And then also to consider another walkway along the eastern edge of the parking lot to connect the new apartment building to the dog park.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
All right. Vote.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Yes, 4 yeses. All right. And say, apologize, my first time running one of these.
You're
That's
doing
perfect.
great.
You're doing
Get
great,
the order a
Kelly.
little off.
You did a great job, Kelly. You did a great job.
All right, Larry, anybody else, any other motions? Say, I'll
Actually,
on,
I like to make a, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, I like to make a motion about the color of the building. As Larry said, I think if you can combine the stone with a lighter color, the stone with the rest of it being yellow or white or cream or something like that, I think that would be more desirable in my view. I don't know if anybody shares that with me.
I don't know how you feel, Kelly, but I don't think that this is totally out of the character with Ellicott City in the neighborhood. There's a lot of everything. And I can appreciate the comment about the stone being in that little strip center and the gas station across the street, which we reviewed, but that also has a whole different feel to it, much more modern, black window frames. I could go on. And I'm referring to the gas station. This building seems to me to be far more, at least the way it's rendered now. And I'm not going to take it literal to say there's yellow brick because I don't think that's the intent. Much more traditional, with sort of terracotta colored brick, base, middle, top. And I would not be inclined to be so dictatorial to say it shouldn't be this and it should be this. My opinion.
All right, and if you look at the pictures of the Sprouts building, there's brick on that.
Yes.
I think maybe looking at the color palette and how that ties in with the materials would be something to be considered as a motion. You know, that there probably could be a little bit better of a color palette coordination. Again, renders that are early, you guys have to pick materials, but I think consider the color palette and how the materials are turning the corners and how all those materials come together, because that also may tie into, do you look at the brick or the stone? Your choice to consider either, but I think you need to look at how the material transitions around the building and what those colors and textures do together. So to modify your motion here, I'd say, I make the motion that the designer looks at the materiality, how it turns the corners, and what those materials are to be in a little more context with the adjacent properties.
I would-
I second that.
All right, all four? Yes. All right, Larry, I can't even see you. You're really dark
Yeah,
right now.
I'm sorry, my hand's up, but I don't really. Yes.
All right, I'd like to make the motion to that if acceptable, the designer does the bollards down at the connection to the shopping center versus the gate. Anyone second?
I'll second.
All four?
Yes.
Yes. All right, that's 4 yeses. Any other motions? I'll make one more motion that the amenity space and the sound wall are looked at, how they can all integrate together and how that can be used to address some of the concerns with the sound, the screening, and again, the materiality and the program of that space. Anyone second?
I'll second.
All four?
Yes.
Yes.
Last call for motions. All right, with that,
Kelly, this isn't a motion, but just, I guess I just recently returned from Delaware because my sister's looking for a house there, and maybe it's just as personal, but the trend now seems to be, someone mentioned the black window frames. That actually is very trendy, and to me still fits in with that kind of craftsman look, you know, with the stone. So I guess when I look at the facade, it's just, it seems like this is repeated throughout Howard County when they're building apartment complexes and stuff. So I was just trying to come up with something that might be just a little bit more eye-catching and still, you know, fit in. So that's where I was coming from on that.
all right. Nick, you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. But I think that's it for this case. Is there any other business or scheduled items?
Oh, man. No, this was the only scheduled plan for this evening. We don't have anything on the upcoming agenda, but I'll keep you guys apprised if we have something in. We have a couple things in the works, but nothing officially submitted yet. And yeah, that's all we have this evening.
All right. So if there's no additional business, I move we officially adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. I appreciate it.
Snowball. time.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right.